Hello, dear viewers. Today I'd like to introduce you to one of the greatest and most influential leaders of ancient times, Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was the king of Macedonia, living in the 4th century BC. He not only secured an unforgettable place in history with his military achievements, but also left a profound impact with his inspiring personality. Born in 356 BC in the capital of Macedonia, Pella, Alexander's father was King Philip II, and his mother was Princess Olympias of Epirus. King Philip II took the throne after the assassination of his father, King Amyntas, shortly before Alexander's birth. King Philip II is renowned as a leader who bolstered and expanded Macedonia through the implementation of military reforms. Olympias, a princess of Epirus, had both Macedonian and Greek ancestry. During her pregnancy, a prophecy foretold that her unborn child would conquer the world and become a great leader. As a result, Olympias and King Philip regarded their unborn child as someone special and named him Alexander the Great. The birth of Alexander marked a significant turning point in his life and in history. At the age of 13, he became the private student of the renowned philosopher Aristotle. Aristotle imparted knowledge on various subjects such as philosophy, logic, ethics, politics, and natural sciences. This education profoundly shaped Alexander's worldview and intellectual capacity. Alexander also received military training under the guidance of talented military commanders and generals, led by his father, King. The result, too. Philip's death marked an important turning point in Macedonian history, leading to the rise of Alexander the Great and his impressive reign on the historical stage. Alexander, who ascended the throne at a young age, acted immediately as the ruler of Macedonia and carried out a number of important actions. Punishment of assassins, his father, too. After Philip's murder, Alexander the Great quickly brought the assassins to justice. He maintained security and order by capturing and punishing those behind the assassination, establishing his power and authority. As soon as Alexander the Great ascended the throne, he took control of the Macedonian army and administration. Thanks to his father's military reforms, he inherited a strong army and a solid economic legacy. He consolidated his power and authority by continuing his father's policies. The unification of Greece. Father II. He successfully pursued and continued the policies of unification of Greece, which had been initiated during the reign of Philippos. He created a powerful Greek empire by uniting the greatest empires the world has ever seen. As a result, too, Philip's death marked an important turning point in Macedonian history, leading to the rise of Alexander the Great and his impressive reign on the historical stage. Alexander, who ascended the throne at a young age, acted immediately as the ruler of Macedonia and carried out a number of important actions. Punishment of assassins, his father, too. After Philip's murder, Alexander the Great quickly brought the assassins to justice. He maintained security and order by capturing and punishing those behind the assassination, establishing his power and authority. As soon as Alexander the Great ascended the throne, he took control of the Macedonian army and administration. Thanks to his father's military reforms, he inherited a strong army and a solid economic legacy. He consolidated his power and authority by continuing his father's policies. The unification of Greece. Father II. He successfully pursued and continued the policies of unification of Greece, which had been initiated during the reign of Philippos. He created a powerful Greek empire by uniting the Greek city-states under one roof. Alexander left an unforgettable mark in history by winning many victories during his short life. Let's take a look at all the wars of Alexander the Great. The Battle of Issus, Alexander III, the ruler of the Persian Empire. It was an important turning point when he faced Darius. Now, let's examine this unforgettable battle in detail. It took place in 333 BC near the city of Issos, in the present-day southern Turkey, in the eastern Mediterranean region. The strategy of the war was a juncture in which both sides tried to achieve victory using their own advantage. Military numbers between the two sides were quite different. The Persian Empire had large lands and a large army. Especially Persian infantry and chariots had a significant power. According to estimates, The Persian army had a huge number ranging from 1,000,000 to 6,000,000. On the other hand, Alexander the Great's Macedonian Empire had a smaller piece of land, but a highly disciplined and trained army. Alexander's army numbered about 4,000 to 5,000. The phalanx tactic. Alexander adopted a focused offensive strategy with the Macedonian troops and named these units phalanx. The phalanx is a tactic in which pikemen line up in dense rows. Alexander planned a focused attack against the Persian army, forming a regular phalanx of his army. Waiting for the Persians to out of the order. Alexander waited for the Persian army to begin to move in disorder and the enemy to move into a scattered attack pattern. Then, with a quick movement, he determined the weak points of the enemy and aimed to attack these points. Attracting Darius's attention, Alexander, king of Persia, III. To distract and attract Darius's attention, he used a strategy of sending small troops to leave key. However, the outcome of strategies on both sides resulted in the victory of Alexander the Great. Alexander's swift, flexible, and focused attacks routed the Persian army. Darius's cavalry tactics and battle fleets were not effective against Alexander's phalanx tactic, a milestone in his empire-building successes. After the Battle of Issos, Alexander the Great declared victory and the Persian king III. With the strength and courage of defeating Darius, he continued to advance with the goal of completely conquering the Persian Empire. In the period after the war, Alexander conducted important military campaigns and conquests. Here are the major actions of Alexander the Great after the Battle of Issos, Phoenicia, and the conquest of Cyprus. After the Battle of Issos, Alexander conquered the Phoenician cities and the island of Cyprus. Phoenician cities joined Alexander's army without great resistance. The conquest of Cyprus contributed to the expansion of Alexander's empire by ending Persian domination in the Mediterranean. Alexander, after conquering Egypt, carried out various important actions to ensure administration and order in the region. Egypt had become an important part of Alexander's empire, and Alexander tried to secure the administration of the region without staying there for long. Here are the main actions Alexander took after the conquest of Egypt. With the conquest of Egypt, Alexander was proclaimed Pharaoh of Egypt and accepted by the locals as their new ruler. The title of Pharaoh was given in order to consolidate Alexander's royal authority and dominance in Egypt, strengthening the Egyptian administrative system. Alexander strengthened the existing local administrative structures in Egypt and respected the local customs and religion of the people. He left the responsibility for the administration of Egypt to the local rulers, allowing the Egyptians to settle their local affairs according to their own customs and rules. Economic development. After conquering Egypt, Alexander took various measures to support and improve the Egyptian economy. He sought to enhance the irrigation system of the Nile River to obtain fertile agricultural lands and encouraged the development of an agriculture-based economy. Development of Alexandria City. Alexander made significant investments in Alexandria City and contributed greatly to its development. Alexandria became a major center for culture and trade, serving as a hub for science, art, and commerce. The Great Library and the Lighthouse of Pharos were among the important structures in Alexandria. Ensuring political and military control. To establish political and military control in Egypt, Alexander stationed garrisons at strategic points. He also organized his army and government to maintain control over other regions in Egypt and neighboring countries. The conquest and subsequent rule of Egypt was a complex process that required maintaining important balances such as independence from the Persian Empire and respecting the role of local authorities in the administration of Egypt, despite the Egyptian people's acceptance of Alexander's dominance. Alexander continued to strengthen the government and cultivate the region as an important part of his empire during the conquest and rule of Egypt. However, after his death, Egypt fell into a disorganized political situation among its Diadoches, successors, and remained under the control of different governments throughout the Hellenistic period. After Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, He stayed in the region for a short time, then headed to Mesopotamia, the main center of the Persian Empire. Along with the goal of conquering Egypt, he continued to advance with the goal of conquering the entire Persian Empire. During his stay in Egypt, he founded the city of Alexandria, organized the administration of the region, and took measures for economic development. The Persian king III, who previously ruled the Persian Empire, marched from Egypt to Mesopotamia. He decided to defeat Darius. Mesopotamia was the heart and administrative center of the Persian Empire. During this process, the famous battle known as the Battle of Gaugamela took place. We will deal with the Battle of Gaugamela, one of the unforgettable campaigns of Alexander the Great. Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander III, ruler of the Persian Empire. It is an important battle with Darius. As it comes, let's examine this epic clash in detail. The Battle of Gaugamela took place in 331 BC. Darius had decided to confront Alexander to stop Alexander's rapid expansion. Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander the Great's Persian Emperor III. It is a critical battle he won against Darius. It took place on October 1st, 331 BC, in the region of Gaugamela, modern Tel Gomel, in Mesopotamia, northern Iraq today. The strategies of the war were a complex juncture in which both sides sought to achieve victory using their own advantages and strengths. Alexander the Great's strategy: flexible movement. Alexander preferred a wide plain when choosing the battlefield. This allowed his army to act quickly and flexibly. A flat area allowed Alexander to freely direct his cavalry and phalanxes and quickly assess the enemy's strategic mistakes. Using Darius's tactical error, Alexander tried to observe the tactical errors of the Persian army. Darius was known to often send his cavalry to the front lines, after which he unleashed his main forces. Alexander seized this opportunity a number of tactical moves to disguise his own troops in the early hours of the war. Try to identify the weak points of the enemy to manipulate the armies of the Persians and block their attacks. Persian Emperor III. Darius's strategy: using geographical advantage. Darius chose the battlefield as a narrow plain. This allowed the Persian cavalry to use its speed and maneuverability. At the same time, he drove Persian chariots onto the battlefield to disperse and disorganize Alexander's infantry. Spear-bearing phalanxes. The Persian continued his eastward advance towards the eastern borders of the Persian Empire, eventually reaching India. During his expedition, he encountered an IND. Alexander continued his eastward advance towards the eastern borders of the Persian Empire, eventually reaching India. During his expedition, he encountered an Indian king named Porus. The Indian campaign, which took place in 326 BC, marked the last major military effort of Alexander the Great to conquer the Persian Empire entirely. As part of his eastward expansion, Alexander directed his forces towards India, but he faced formidable geographical obstacles and encountered resistance from the local people. One of the most notable events during the Indian campaign was the Battle of the Hydaspes, which occurred on the banks of the Hydaspes River, now known as the Gelum River, in 326 BC. This significant battle involved a confrontation between Alexander's forces and the army of the Indian king Porus. Strategy and results. The Battle of Hydaspes presented a formidable challenge for Alexander, as Porus commanded a powerful army supported by a vast war fleet and numerous war elephants. Alexander needed to find a way to defeat this formidable opponent. Alexander's strategy. To combat Porus's strong battle fleet and the army with war elephants, Alexander chose to engage the enemy in open ground, providing greater maneuverability and freedom for his Macedonian phalanx and cavalry units. Alexander attempted to provoke Porus by setting up camp in front of the Hydaspes River, possibly luring him to bring his army to the riverbank and attack the camp. Before the battle, Alexander's spies likely gathered intelligence on the strengths and weaknesses of Porus's army, allowing him to better understand his enemy's strategies. Relying on the strength of the Macedonian phalanx, Alexander aimed to break through the enemy's lines and split their army during the battle. During the battle, Alexander's cavalry units probably made tactical moves to disrupt and weaken the flanks of Porus's army. Porus's strategy. Porus chose to take a defensive position on the other side of the Hydaspes River, using the river as a natural barrier to prevent the enemy's invasion. The war fleets and war elephants were integral to Porus's army and were likely intended to be used to break up the enemy's lines. Porus may have tried to use the seasonal water levels and flow of the Hydaspes River to obstruct Alexander's passage and delay his advance. Porus adopted a strategy of resistance, aiming to wear down the enemy and face them in a weakened state during the confrontation. Ultimately, Alexander's better organized and disciplined army prevailed, leading to Porus's defeat and capture in battle. The Battle of the Hydaspes marked an important turning point in Alexander's Indian campaign, representing one of his last significant victories in the East. Despite this victory, the costs of the campaign were high for Alexander's army, which suffered heavy losses and experienced weariness and low morale. As a result, Alexander decided to halt further expansion and return to his homelands. The Battle of the Hydaspes is considered a crucial turning point in Alexander's Indian campaign. Despite his triumph, Alexander faced challenges in sustaining energy and morale after such a significant victory. Consequently, he abandoned plans for further expansion and focused on consolidating and managing his empire. The battle stands as one of Alexander's last great military successes in the East, signifying a pivotal moment in his leadership and the redirection of his ambitions. After the Indian campaign, Alexander and his army reached the eastern borders of the Persian Empire. However, his exhausted troops were no longer eager for further conquests. They yearned to return home. Responding to the desires of his army, Alexander decided to head westward on their journey back. A king named Porus, Alexander's lovely horse Bucephalus, died on the way back in 326 BC. To show his sadness at his death, Alexander the Great also founded another city named after his beloved horse, Bucephalus. This city was built after the death of Bucephalus to keep his memory alive. The monument was erected in honor of Alexander and Bucephalus, and the memory of his horse was kept alive even after Alexander's death. Unfortunately, little is known today of the remains of this monument, Bucephalus of Alexandria, and it may have disappeared over time. However, throughout history, the memory and symbolism of Alexander the Great and Bucephalus have been kept alive and remembered in various works of art and written sources. Alexander the Great died of an illness at the age of 32 near Babylon in 323 BC, before reaching Babylon on his way back from the Indian expedition. It is not known exactly what the disease of Alexander the Great was. Various theories exist among historians and scientists, but no clear cause has been identified. Diseases such as malaria, typhoid fever, lung infection, and alcohol poisoning are among the possibilities put forward as causes of death. Alexander's sudden and premature death triggered the consolidation of his empire and power struggles among his successors. The rule and division of the Alexander Empire after his death has produced long-lasting complexity and significant consequences throughout history. While Alexander is remembered as a historically important leader and warrior, at the end of his life he lived a short but impressive life filled with great achievements and conquests. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more historical content and see you in other videos. Goodbye!